Hi, here we are in another video, and I've got some exciting news for you for all you Ubiquiti fans out there and all you Ubiquiti users. They've just released a new version of UniFi Network. It's not just a minor release, it's actually a major release, and we're now going to version 8.0.7, which probably means that the whole layout and everything around the 7.5 versions will look completely different in version 8. It isn't actually a general release at the moment, but it is actually just in early access, so I'm sure once any minor issues have been ironed out, it will be in general release when you can all download it. Without further ado, I'll stop waffling. Let's get into the computer behind me, take a look at the UniFi Network controller and the grand tour of what it looks like. So here we are, and I've accessed the UniFi Network controller login page via its local IP address, and immediately I can see that the UniFi OS logo here has actually been changed. Looks quite good. So anything else I can see on this actual front page for logging in is actually the same, apart from the UniFi OS logo. So let's click sign in and take a look at the OS settings screen. So here it's taken us into the applications, and as you will see, we've got network, which is being updated to version 8.0.7, which is the latest early release, and it's been updated to 8.0.7, which is the latest early access version at the time of recording this video. Also, UniFi Protect has been updated to version 2.9.42, again, which is at the time of recording this video. I don't use Access, Talk or Connect, so these are showing as still install. However, I have noticed an additional application which is called InnerSpace, and here you can see we can install that. I'm not going to do it at the moment until I've investigated further what it actually is, but I believe it's a map application where you can map out the layout of your home or office or whatever and actually have it in the UniFi OS. Also, UniFi OS version is actually on version 3.2.6 again at the time of recording this video. Now I can see from this screen that the icons have changed at the top left corner, and if you recall, they were actually at the top right hand corner next to the actual router where it shows here. So they have been moved across to the left. So if we click on the U icon, it takes us back to the OS settings. So that's the main application screen which you are presented with when you first log in. So if we click on admins and users, for example, and then click on U, it will take us back to the applications. So going through these options, I can see we've got applications from the left hand side menu. Under that we've got admins and users, which was there before. This screen looks the same as before. Then we have UniFi devices, and I can see that there's a number against it, and I don't think there was in the previous version. When I mean previous version, I'm referring to the 7.5 versions. So if I say previous version in this video, I mean 7.5 point whatever version. So I can see that we've got the devices listed which were similar to before. I think in fact the same listing as before and the same layout. Then if we go down to console settings, we have the same console settings as before, I believe. I don't think there's any additions there. Then underneath console settings, we've got Identify Enterprise, which is new, as it states next to it. And here in this screen, you can upgrade to UniFi Identity Enterprise. We've got two plans. The first one on the left is Enterprise Basic Plan, and that's free, and that's for up to 5 users and up to 1 site. And it includes phone-based door access, one-click Wi-Fi and VPN, user and lifestyle management, and so on, as you will see on screen at the moment. Then we have the Enterprise Standard Plan, which is showing us coming soon, and that has unlimited users, minimum of 5 users, unlimited sites. So I'm guessing what they're going to be doing is charging for UniFi cloud-based enterprise access. However, I can't actually confirm that at the moment. But you need to enable remote access. So as you need remote access for it, I believe that it's going to be a cloud-based portal, and they're going to start probably charging for it in the future. It is actually just for enterprises, so I don't think they're going to be starting to charge as general users and home users or whatever. So it's still remaining the same as it is, as far as I'm aware anyway. Moving down, we have map, where here you can see it's got UniFi Your Space, which is actually different, and it says go to inner space, which is what we're seeing in the applications here. So that's inner space. So that's what I'm guessing it's for, to build out a proper map of your system layout. So I'll cover this in another video, I think, when I've investigated it further and tested it out to show you what it actually does. So moving down, we've got system log, which was the same as before, where we can filter down with all events, critical updates, admin, user activity, backups, and so on. Then underneath that we have storage, which looks like the same screen layout as before and the same options in there. Then underneath that we have about this console, which looks the same as before. So what we're all waiting for now is UniFi Network Application. So let's get straight into that now by clicking on the second icon at the top left corner, which looks like a donut, and this is for the UniFi network. So when we click on UniFi Network, it takes us straight into the usual network dashboard, which looks the same as what it did before. So you can see the traffic identification, Wi-Fi technology, which I believe wasn't there before, or correct me if I'm wrong. Underneath that we have most active clients, most active access points, and active Wi-Fi channels, and also internet activity showing as a graph. So moving down on the left hand side options, we then have topology under that, which is the same as before. So moving down to UniFi devices, that looks very similar to before. However, the spacing, I believe, is actually a lot better. It's actually in sections and boxes around everything, which looks a lot neater. It's saying that 3 devices need updating, but I'll leave those for the time being and update those later for you. So moving down to client devices, we have the list of client devices, which looks the same as before. So moving down underneath that, we now have an icon for ports. So if we click on that, you will see all the network ports, and we can see that at the top of this screen, there's actually tick boxes where you could filter what you want to be showing on the list. So for example, at the moment by default it's showing as in use, so it's showing us all ports that are in use. You can actually tick all, and then it will show every port on your switch, even those that are not in use, which this is actually quite useful. You can actually tick available, so you can see which ports are actually empty and not in use, which is also useful, so you know which ones to connect devices to that you want to add into your network. We can also filter them by no PoE, which means power over Ethernet for those that don't know. And then we can click on PoE plus and it will show you the PoE plus ports. Then we can filter it by PoE plus plus, and as you'll see, it's showing PoE plus plus ports, even those that are empty. However, you can filter it down further and just show those that are in use. So you could actually tick the in use box and PoE plus plus box, and it will just show you those ports that are in use with PoE plus plus devices connected to them. You could actually filter it again with full Ethernet, gigabit Ethernet or 10 gigabit. Then at the top we can select Insights, and here when we click on Insights you'll see that there's a graph which is not currently populated at the moment because there's no data flowing through the network, I guess, but when it does get populated. Now moving across to the right hand side screen, you can have various filters in there, so it's showing the data for 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, whichever one you want to select. You can also select the calendar and pick dates that you want to see what data has been flowing for those particular dates. There's also another filter box here at the right hand side, and then we can select the display options. So if we pull down all ports, we can select, for example, just the UDM Pro, which is route 01, and it will then bring up a graph of the data which has been flowing through the router, meaning the UDM Pro. And it's showing then, if you hover over the actual graph, it shows you the data for the ports and how much data has been flowing through which port number. So then we can actually select the switch, and here you'll see that the switch data has been showing on the graph and the various port numbers and which data and the amount of data has been flowing through each individual port. You can actually filter things down further. For example, you can have in use, available, PoE ports, which ports are which, and the media as well. There's various columns which you can click on to configure. For example, if you don't want various columns showing, you can actually remove these by unticking them. So there's various filter options and columns which you can configure in the list there. So moving on, we'll go to VLANs, and here you'll see that there's a new graph and new layout for VLANs, and here we have native VLAN assignments. So in the VLAN screen, you'll see in the top left corner you can select the VLANs and which device on your network they are. So for example, it's showing the port numbers on each device under the native VLAN assignment. So these are the port layouts on the front of the UDM Pro. So here we have, which I'm hovering over now, are the actual 10 gigabit SFP plus ports, meaning port 9, port 10, and then also we have port 11, which is a standard gigabit Ethernet port. And then you'll see underneath this we have VLAN tagging, and it's showing which port is actually tagged to a VLAN. Now, as you'll see, VLAN 1, which is not actually the VLAN, but it's actually the default network, has blue boxes against it. Then we have VLAN 10, which is the automation VLAN. And as you'll see, all these ports are all the same color in each section. This is because they're not actually tagged to any particular VLAN, meaning that the port is not actually tagged to any particular VLAN. I will go into VLAN tagging and port tagging in another video at a later time, when actually this is put to general release, so that at least we're all on the same version, and I'll show you and explain how things work further. So let's move down to the next option at the left hand side menu, and here we have radios, and this is for the Wi-Fi access points. And as you'll see, the device is wireless access point number 1. And here you'll see I've got both 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi bands. And it shows the channel numbers, the channel width, the TX power, how many clients are connected, the amount of data that's been flowing through the Wi-Fi access point and each particular Wi-Fi band in the last 24 hours, transmission retries, average signal strength, uplink, port speed, which is gigabit. It also shows you which port on which the wireless access point is connected to. Then the end column shows you me mode 2x2 and 4x4 for the corresponding Wi-Fi bands. Here at the top left corner, you can also filter it by your various access points. As I only have one, there's only one to select in the list, but if you have more than one access point, you can actually filter it so that these columns here show for a particular wireless access point. And here you'll see underneath that the name of my Wi-Fi network, SSID set as MTT, and here you can just click create new, which will then allow you to quickly create new Wi-Fi networks. So if we go back to radios again, and we can also select coverage at the top, which then provides you with access point density graph, and underneath that client connectivity, which I believe were the same as before, probably slightly different layout on various icons and graphs, but similar sort of information as what was there before. We can then click on connectivity, and this is a new layout screen, and here you'll see that there's all clients, all access points, the router and the actual association, and various DHCP, DNS, success, authentication, and it tells you that they're all 100%, which will obviously show you if there's any network problems or issues you're having with the percentage of that for those particular things dropping, I would expect. Here you'll see further down we have problematic clients, and this is for the door chime, which is the UPsense UniFi Smart Chime. And as you can see, it said there was a connection start time and there was problems with it. So if we click on that, it just brings the door chime information box pop up at the right hand side, like the pop-ups used to be before in the 7.5 versions. So here you could actually click on Insight and then it will provide you with further information for diagnostics purposes of what happened with the device and why it has problems. So moving on to the top again, we have environment, and here you'll see we have Wi-Fi channel interference and various Wi-Fi networks around that area and possible interference from them. Here again, always at the top right hand side, you can actually filter things by dates, weeks, months, and also then again you can select the display options to filter things by columns and so on, which seem to be available in most screens in the UniFi network. So moving down, we go to gateway, and then here you'll see it analyzes the traffic that's going through the internet gateway on my UDM Pro, and it will provide you with the total amount of data, download, upload, clients, and so on, and what the data was actually going to and what it was for. At the top, we can select filtering, and here you'll see things that it's actually blocked on the network, and it provides you with a detailed graph. And as you can see, items shown in yellow here are ad blocks. So all these in this graph here are actually ad blocking, which the UniFi has done, and there's quite a lot, so it's actually quite useful for blocking ads. Any items that are shown in red on the graph will be for threats which have been blocked, and also in purple for traffic rule enforced. And then further down we have watch list, which provides a list of devices which had ads blocked of them. So then at the top we can click on Geo, and here it takes you into the map of where you can block various countries like you could before, which looks the similar sort of layout, actually the same as what it was before, I think. Moving down we have system log, which is the same as what it was before, and here you can filter it down by updates, client, so on. Then you can also select push notifications settings. So moving down to the last one, which is the cog icon, we have settings, and here it takes you into the Wi-Fi networks, and here you can now click on radios and it says go to radio manager. This takes you into the new radio section which we covered a few moments ago in the left hand side menu option. We can also do optimized channels. So moving down into networks, we have the screen which shows us networks and associated VLANs, and underneath that we can now click new virtual network, which allows us to create a new virtual network. And also I can see that there's a VLAN viewer, so if we click that it takes us back into the ports menu option at the left hand side, where we can perform port tagging and VLAN tagging on various devices, which, as I say, I'll go into in another video later on. Going back to networks, I can see that the global network settings seem to be the same as before. So moving down to internet, and this takes us into the internet screen, and here we have a new box saying internet sources, and it shows you which ports are primary and secondary and which are active and non-active for WAN connections. Moving down, we now have a VPN option, which we did before. However, we have at the top, we can select teleport VPN server, where we can select a VPN type of WireGuard, OpenVPN or Layer 2 tunneling protocol. You can also now click on VPN client, where we can have a VPN type of WireGuard and OpenVPN for a VPN client. Then also we can have site-to-site VPN as well, where we can have the VPN type as OpenVPN or IPsec. Again, these options look similar to what they did in the 7.5 versions. So moving down to security, we now have various menu options at the top, one for general, traffic rules, port forwarding and firewall rules. So if we click on each one, I think these have been split into different screens and slightly different layouts as well. So under traffic rules, that looks similar to before. Port forwarding looks similar, I believe, to before in the 7.5 versions. And then we have firewall rules, which looks like a slightly different layout screen, but it looks a lot neater actually, and as do most screens in the UniFi network now. So moving down to routing, we have traffic routes and also static routes, which can be configured. Then moving down to profiles, we have Ethernet ports, Wi-Fi speed limits, which you could configure before, radius, which was also there before, and IP group, which was there before. Then moving down to system, we have the same screen as what was there before. Then we have updates, where we can check for updates, configure early access release channels, and set a time to automate device updates. We then have backups, where we can backup configuration files or select auto backup or cloud console backups as well. Then under advanced, we can have Wi-Fi man support and debug tools and other various options, where you can select SNMP versions, for example, and I believe these options were there before. I can't see any new options in there. So moving on, UniFi Protect is still on a major version of 2, so there won't be anything different in there. So then the other final icon is for OS settings, which takes us back to the OS settings screen as it does when you click on the U icon as well. However, the U icon takes you into the first option for applications, whereas OS settings stays in the screen that you last used. Yes, and if you click U, it takes you back to the home screen of applications. So I think that completes the actual tour of the new UniFi Network version 8.0.7. My views on this, just to finish off this video, I actually like the improvements, and the layout is much better than what it has been with the 7.5 versions in the UniFi network. I think the screens are much clearer laid out with borders around other things, and selecting options and navigating through each option is actually much easier. And I don't think you get lost in the actual menu options so much as you did with the 7.5 versions. With the 7.5 versions, there was obviously a lot of additional things added or changed, and I think it just needed this big tidy up with version 8.0.7, so everything is looking on screen a lot neater and tidier and easy to navigate. So a thumbs up from me, and I'm looking forward to having UniFi Protect updated to a new major version, which will probably be version 3. So whether UniFi are in the process of doing that, I don't know. So don't quote me on this, but I'm not sure whether they're updating any major releases for UniFi Protect at the moment. They'll probably still be working on fixing any bugs or issues with UniFi Network, as this is still in early release. So I hope you found this video useful. Don't forget to hit subscribe. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye for now.